Hello everyone. Welcome to Understanding Emotions. I am Sankalp. In the last few episodes, I have been discussing ideas and arguments. This one is going to be a bit different. In this one, I wish to be more practical and talk about a specific practice. It is the practice of self-compassion. Self-compassion, just like acceptance, is one of the foundational aspects of emotional intelligence. Self-compassion is a term coined and popularized by a psychologist called Kristin Neff. The underlying concept behind self-compassion actually comes from ancient Buddhist psychology, but Neff was the first one to formalize it and test it scientifically. So in this episode, I'm going to use Neff's outline to describe self-compassion. To start with, self-compassion is just compassion for yourself. It's not really much different from regular compassion. In the experience of regular compassion, you might see someone in pain and be moved with a desire to help them. Self-compassion is the same, but for yourself. You might see yourself in pain, and instead of beating yourself up, your response is to be moved by your own pain and to be on your own side. Neff has described self-compassion using three constitutional elements: self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. Let's look at each of them individually. Self-kindness. Here's a question for you. If you fail at something, let's say you applied to a job and got rejected, how do you react to these so-called failures? What is your first reaction, and how do you explain to yourself what happened? For the vast majority of us, we feel that a rejection from work or from college is a rejection of us. We may rationally know to not take things personally, but yet we beat ourselves up, thinking about all the times we have failed and how unworthy we are. But yet we beat ourselves up, thinking about all the times we have failed and thinking about how unworthy we are. Essentially, we turn on ourselves. The stance of self-kindness suggests that difficulties, failures, and rejections are inevitable. It also notices that self-criticism is not really helpful. Sure, it might help get through the situation, but it does not feel any good, and it does not really help improve performance either. Think about it. If you are in an interview, would you perform better when you are at ease with yourself? Or would you perform better when you are self-critical? I think it is undoubtedly the former. So in self-kindness, your inner narrative is much gentler on yourself. You are not beating yourself up, but instead you are comforting yourself. If you fail to get into grad schools, for example, you are not hammering on yourself that you don't deserve to be there. But instead, you just tell yourself that it is okay and that rejection is part of life. This is not to say that you should not learn from the situation. Later, you might even analyze why you failed or got rejected. But such analysis is always blanketed with kindness. The second pillar is common humanity. Have you had the experience of going through some tough time and then realizing a lot of people have gone through the same thing? Doesn't that make you feel better? Think of someone who is a recovering alcoholic and the comfort and hope they get by joining a support group. And common humanity does not have to apply to some big suffering either. I have been learning to play the guitar, and I find it extremely comforting and helpful to know that others have struggled at the same place that I am struggling with. It keeps me motivated and going. Imagine how I would feel if I were to know that the thing I'm spending weeks on is grasped by everyone within a few minutes. The core of common humanity is the reality of suffering. At the deepest level, all humans suffer. No one is spared from disease, death, and aging. If you're listening to this during the coronavirus pandemic, you can really see common humanity shining through. This disease does not really care about borders, about income, or about one's social status. And the only way to fight it is to fight it together, be it through social distancing, global cooperation, and so on. Knowing this is a humbling fact for all the overt displays of power and stature that we humans create. Now on to the final pillar, mindfulness. Say you're walking down the street and you see some homeless people asking for money. Irrespective of whether you act or not, you would feel empathy for this homeless person and probably have a desire to help them. That is compassion. However, if your gaze never went to that homeless person, if you never paid attention, then you would never feel compassion. The same is true with self-compassion. You need to be able to notice that you're suffering. You need to be able to see all the various ways in which you turn on yourself. You need to catch the critic when it shows up and as it shows up. This is easier said than done, of course, because self-criticism is nothing but a series of thoughts in which we are lost. It is not much different than daydreaming, in which you're gone without knowing that you're gone. A lot of people feel that practicing self-compassion might take their competitive edge off them. They feel their self-hatred is what powers their excellence. There might be some truth to that. For instance, if one had an extremely critical parent or teacher in their childhood, then they might have learned that performance is how they get their parents' or teachers' approval. And later they might have internalized that criticism within themselves, and that's how they keep going. The problem with this is that such performance comes at a heavy cost. There's a cost to one's mental health. That's why it's not uncommon to see high achievers burn out, sometimes to the point of contemplating or even completing suicide. There's also evidence that such chronic stress leads to all sorts of physical problems, like chronic back pain or some autoimmune disorder. Clearly, self-hatred and self-criticism have major costs. Further, it is not the case that a compassionate stance hinders performance in any way. I have found that, in fact, I am way more creative and I have much more fun with work if I'm kind to myself. There's no trade-off between self-compassion and performance. And if you're seeking to not just perform mechanically, but to enjoy, be creative, and learn in the process, then I think self-compassion is vital. So there we have it, folks. That's self-compassion for you. Note that the practice of it is more important than just knowing about it. In the next section, we will do exactly that. Hello and welcome. In this part, I am going to lead a type of a meditation which is called loving kindness meditation. Now I get that the name sounds a bit flowery, but don't get detracted by it. It is a very powerful practice, and I highly encourage that you give your all to it. This meditation will last about 7 to 10 minutes. As with any of the exercises I suggest, if it destabilizes you in any way, you might want to discontinue and perhaps seek professional help. Okay, having issued those caveats, shall we begin? To practice this, it is best if you're seated on a chair or on the floor. Please close your eyes. If you wear spectacles, keep them aside for a while. And now, bring all your attention to your nostrils. This is just to calm your mind and bring it to the present. Focus on the sensation of your natural, normal breath. Breathing in. Just note that you're breathing in. And breathing out. Just note that you're breathing out. Simply remain aware of your breath. And do not try to manipulate it in any way. Now that you have settled a bit, I'd like you to recall a time in which you were suffering. Recall what it was like. It need not be the biggest suffering of your life, and I'm certainly not asking you to relive any traumatic moments, but just something that bothered you enough to be called suffering. With this, simply recognize that you suffer. And also note that you are not alone in this suffering. Maybe if you're thinking of an illness that you faced, literally thousands of people must be going through the same thing right now. That, of course, does not make the suffering itself any better. But there's comfort in knowing that you're not alone. And then, people also suffer in ways that you have not experienced. Suffering really is a hallmark of existence. No one who has existed has escaped suffering. There is common humanity in suffering. With that in mind, allow yourself to feel kindness and compassion for all this suffering. First, we will start by directing this kindness to yourself and slowly extend this to others. So think of yourself, your suffering, and mentally repeat after me. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. Again, may I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. It does not have to be these exact lines. You can use some other ones if they are better suited to you. But notice the underlying feeling of compassion that these lines provoke, and direct those feelings to yourself. You don't have to force yourself into feeling compassion. Just work with whatever naturally arises as you repeat these lines. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be peaceful. May I live with ease. Having cultivated this loving kindness for yourself, you could return to your breath for a moment. Love is not really a limited resource. It is more like the sun. If it shines on everyone. It doesn't cost more. So you can now take this love that you have cultivated and extend it to people in your lives. So perhaps bring in mind now some person close to you, be it a parent, spouse, child, friend, and realize that being human, this person suffers too. Bring in front of you their image, and just like you did for yourself, wish for them, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you live with ease, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, may you live with ease. Perhaps take a moment now to return to your breath. And now, take this feeling of compassion or loving kindness that you have generated and direct it to everyone or just humans in general. You can bring in front of you any person you like and even keep alternating between different people. Everyone suffers, and all you are doing is cultivating a wish that their suffering is alleviated. This includes you, of course. Just repeat after me, mentally. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings live with ease. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings live with ease. Once again, return to your breath. Settle into your breathing. Relax. It's done. But just to transition out, just breathe in and breathe out. Focus on your breath. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, thank you for listening to this show. This might be the first time that many of you are doing a loving kindness practice. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. This was just a short introduction. There are many variations of this practice that you could do. Also, this is not necessarily a self-compassion practice per se, but it has the element of self-compassion in it. In general, it's a practice of intentionally cultivating feelings of love and kindness and directing them to people and all living beings. But anyway, thanks here for your attention. It means a lot to me. If you think this content is valuable, please share it with the people who might benefit and or be interested. Again, if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them. This podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, and an RSS feed. If you're listening on iTunes, it would be nice if you could review the show. It will help signal to Apple that this stuff is good. If you're on Spotify, then you could press the follow button on the show. Again, this will help the algorithms know about the show. Thanks once again. Stay safe, and may you be happy, peaceful, and live with ease.